The smell of hamburgers sizzling on the grill drifted across the backyard as folks from the neighborhood settled in for what had become our regular monthly get-together. I was helping my buddy Mark set out some folding chairs when I heard my wife's voice rise above all the chatter. Ladies, I have the perfect solution for everyone," she shouted, loud enough for half the block to hear. "Who wants to swap husbands? Mine is low maintenance, has zero ambition, and is completely boring." People laughed, but for me it felt like someone had dumped a bucket of cold water down my back. I lowered the chairs slowly and watched as she waved a hand in my direction like I was some dented toaster she was hoping someone else might haul away. "I am serious," she went on, playing it up for the circle of neighborhood wives gathered around her. "He comes home, sits on the couch, watches television, and that is about it. No drama, no surprises, no excitement, nothing." That was when Rachel, our recently divorced neighbor from 2 houses down, stepped forward. She had been quietly sipping her wine until that moment. As she moved closer, conversations all around us faded, because she had that kind of presence. Confident, smooth, almost too sure of herself. "I will take him," she said, calm as anything, looking my wife straight in the eye. "Are you serious?" someone murmured, and the whole vibe shifted. What had been easy laughter suddenly turned stiff and awkward. My wife's smirk twitched for a second before she forced another laugh. "Oh, Rachel, you are ridiculous." "Am I?" Rachel tilted her head a little, her voice soft but steady. "Low maintenance sounds perfect to me after everything I just went through. No drama? Sign me up. And boring?" She looked right at me. Really looked, and the way she sized me up made a few people shift uncomfortably. I do not buy that for a second. My wife's cheeks were starting to turn red, but she kept pushing. "Well, if you really want him, should I schedule the movers for today or tomorrow morning?" Rachel lifted her phone with a practiced flick, her thumb hovering over the screen. "I can have them here by noon tomorrow. My place even has better wireless internet." The crowd erupted into nervous side comments. A few people chuckled, but it was not the same kind of laughter as before. This felt charged, like everyone had suddenly realized this was no longer just a joke. My wife looked around, expecting someone, anyone, to back her up, but most people were just staring at her with wide eyes. "You are not serious," she said, though her voice was losing steam. "Try me," Rachel replied, still holding her phone. "I have the number right here. Bennett Moving Services. They moved me out of my ex-husband's place in 3 hours." Beside me, Mark cleared his throat. "Well, this got interesting fast. I found myself in the strangest spot. For years, I had sat through these little jabs, these public put-downs, these comments about how dull or useless I supposedly was. But watching Rachel act like I actually mattered, like I was someone worth having around, something shifted inside me. "You know what?" I said, raising my voice so everyone could hear. "Maybe she should text them." The silence that followed felt heavy. My wife's mouth literally fell open. Rachel lifted her eyebrows and smiled like she was enjoying every second of this. "Do not encourage her," my wife snapped at me, but her voice cracked. "Why not?" I stepped closer. "You just spent 5 minutes telling everyone how worthless I am as a husband. Rachel seems to think differently. Maybe she sees something you do not." Rachel nodded, smart and paying attention. "See, not boring at all." The other wives were whispering back and forth, looking from my wife to Rachel like they were watching a live tennis match. My wife kept searching the crowd for support, but the tide had completely turned. She had miscalculated. She meant to embarrass me, but all she had done was show everyone how she talked about her own husband. And now they were seeing another woman treat me better than she ever did. "This is not funny anymore," my wife said. But nobody laughed. "No," I said, meeting her eyes. "It is not." Rachel looked down at her phone again. "You know what? I should just call them now. I do not like leaving things unfinished." "Stop it, Rachel," my wife said, panic creeping in. "This joke has gone far enough." "What joke?" Rachel froze her dialing and frowned. "You offered to trade him. I accepted. You asked who wanted him. I said yes. I am just doing what you suggested." People were outright staring now. Kelly from across the street had her hand over her mouth, trying not to burst out laughing. Mark was grinning like he had front-row seats to the best show of the year. "I was not actually offering to trade my husband," my wife protested. "Then why did you say it?" I asked her. Why did you stand here in front of everybody and talk about me like I am some broken appliance you were trying to haul off to the curb? I asked her. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Honestly, what could she say? Everyone had heard every word. Everyone had watched her roast me for 5 straight minutes like it was part of the entertainment. Rachel slipped her phone into her pocket and stepped closer to my wife. You know, she said, when I got divorced 6 months ago, I promised myself I would never settle for a man who did not appreciate me. But here you are with a man who clearly does appreciate you, and you are out here using him as a punchline. I appreciate him, my wife said quickly, almost offended. Do you? Rachel asked, her tone still polite, but carrying an edge sharp enough to cut. Because appreciation usually does not sound like what I just heard. When I was married, my ex-husband talked about me the same way. That is how I knew it was time to walk away. That comparison hit my wife hard. Everybody in the neighborhood knew what a complete mess Rachel's ex had been. Cheating, lying, every kind of betrayal you could think of. Being compared to him was not something anyone wanted. That is completely different, my wife stammered. Is it? Rachel turned to the rest of the women gathered around. Ladies, if you love and respect your husbands, do you stand at a neighborhood barbecue and ask who wants to trade them because you think they are boring? A heavy silence stretched out. The wives avoided my wife's eyes like the question had been aimed at them personally. Finally, Megan, our next-door neighbor, spoke. I mean, my husband, Daniel, drives me nuts sometimes, but I would never. She did not finish the sentence, but she did not have to. Everybody knew the implication. My wife finally understood how badly she had misread the room. What she thought was harmless fun had turned into an open judgment of the way she treated her marriage. Moving truck will be here at 10 tomorrow morning, Rachel announced. I already texted them. I hope that fits your schedule. You did not actually text movers, my wife said, but her voice was trembling now. Rachel held up her phone, showing the sent message. Bennett Moving Services. Ask for Henry. They are fast. A wave of gasps and uneasy laughter rippled across the group. This had officially crossed into real drama. Rachel, you cannot be serious, my wife pleaded. Why not? Rachel asked. You made the offer in front of everyone. I accepted in front of everyone. Your husband sounds open to the idea. So what exactly is the issue? I stood there, watching 2 women basically negotiate over me while the entire neighborhood looked on. And the strange part was the contrast. My wife had spent years acting like I should be grateful anyone tolerated me, while Rachel acted as if I was someone worth claiming. The problem is he is my husband, my wife finally snapped. Then maybe you should act like it, Rachel replied calmly. Instead of shopping him around at a barbecue. That was when Mark started a slow clap. Best cookout entertainment we have had all year. This is not entertainment, my wife shot back at him. You are right, I said, stepping forward. It is educational. I am learning how other people see the way you talk about me, and I am learning what it feels like to have someone stand up for me instead of tearing me down. My wife looked around desperately, but it was too late. Every single person there had heard her try to humiliate me, and they had also seen someone else treat me with more respect than she had in years. The balance between us had shifted, and everybody knew it. The barbecue went on, but the mood was different. My wife huddled in a corner with 2 of her friends, whispering and shooting furious glances my way. Meanwhile, Rachel drifted effortlessly into any conversation I was part of. So, what do you do for work? She asked as we stood near the grill with Mark and a few others. I work in software development for Fisher Technologies, I told her. Nothing too exciting. Are you kidding? She said. That is fascinating. I have always wondered how all this technology works. You must be incredibly smart to understand all of that. It was such a simple compliment, but it hit me like a punch to the chest. When was the last time my wife had shown any real interest in my job? Usually she just rolled her eyes whenever I talked about it. Mark chimed in. He is being humble. His team just landed that big contract with the city's traffic management project. It has been all over the news lately. That was you? Rachel asked, turning to me with wide, genuine admiration. I read about that. That project is going to make driving through downtown so much easier for everybody. I felt myself straighten up a little. Well, it was a team effort, but yes, I designed most of the core algorithms. Brilliant and humble, Rachel said, giving me a look that was not subtle at all. I am liking this arrangement more and more. From across the yard, I could see my wife's face getting redder by the minute as she watched Rachel hanging on every word I said. What made it worse was that other people were noticing it, too. Kelly walked over with a new drink in her hand. I had no idea you worked on that traffic project, she said. That is actually really impressive. See, Rachel said, motioning toward Kelly. Everybody appreciates what you do. Well, almost everybody. The jab landed exactly where she meant it to, and Kelly shifted uncomfortably before steering the conversation somewhere else. But the point had already been made. Rachel was not going to let anyone forget how my wife had talked about me earlier. Then Owen from down the street walked over with his teenage son. Hey, he said, didn't you help my kid with his computer science homework a few months back? He has been talking about applying for programming internships ever since. Dad, his son jumped in. He explained object-oriented programming in 10 minutes. My teacher could not get it through to me in 3 weeks. It was awesome. Rachel nodded like she was checking off items on a list. Patient teacher. Problem solver. Helps the community. This keeps getting better. For the first time in a long while, I was seeing myself the way other people apparently saw me. None of this was new. These were things I had done without thinking twice. But hearing other people bring them up so easily made me realize how invisible those things were at home. To my wife, I was just the guy who came home and sat on the couch. And here was Rachel, collecting every compliment like evidence. You know what else? Mark added as he joined in. Remember when that big tree fell in the Johnsons' yard last winter? Who was out there with a chainsaw at 7 in the morning clearing their driveway? That would be my new roommate, Rachel said with a big grin. Dependable, helpful, and ready for emergencies. Rachel, stop, I said, though I was smiling in spite of myself. Stop what? She asked. Stop pointing out what you bring to the table? Stop showing appreciation? Stop treating you like you matter? Her words hung in the air, and nobody disagreed. Because that was exactly what she was doing. And it was something I could not remember the last time my wife had done. Camila from the corner house arrived with a plate of desserts. Are we bragging about the neighborhood hero over here? This man fixed my garbage disposal last month and refused to let me pay him. Skilled with his hands, too, Rachel added. This is turning into a very impressive resume. I glanced toward my wife again. She had stopped whispering with her friends. Now she was just staring at us, stiff, unmoving, wearing an expression I had never seen before. It was not anger anymore. It looked a whole lot like fear. She was watching everyone around her list all the good things about me, the things she had ignored, minimized, or forgotten. She was watching another woman appreciate me out loud in a way she never had, even privately. And she was finally understanding that maybe her joke about trading husbands was not nearly as clever or harmless as she thought. You know the best part? Rachel said loudly, her voice carrying far across the backyard. All this time, I thought all the good men around here were already taken. Turns out one of them was just undervalued. The group laughed, not the awkward laughter from earlier, but the kind you hear when people recognize something true. My wife heard it too, and from the look on her face, it hit her exactly where it counted. The barbecue wrapped up around 8, but people did not immediately go home. Conversations kept spilling into driveways and front yards as neighbors lingered, still buzzing about everything they had just witnessed. As I helped Mark stack the last of the chairs, I noticed the small groups forming. Kelly and Megan were talking by the mailbox, glancing toward our house now and then. Owen was showing Rachel something on his phone while his wife nodded along. Even the younger couples, who usually kept to themselves, hung back longer than usual, clearly discussing the whole spectacle. My wife had disappeared inside about 20 minutes earlier, claiming she had a headache. But through the kitchen window, I could see her pacing with her phone glued to her ear, no doubt calling her sister or her closest friend to complain that everyone had ganged up on her. Quite a show tonight, Mark said. I have not seen anything like that since the Henderson family moved away. It was not supposed to be a show, I said quietly. She was just trying to be funny. Mark gave me a look, the kind only a man with decades of marriage behind him can give. Son, I have been married 43 years. That was not her trying to be funny. That was her trying to put you in your place. Problem is, it blew up in her face. Before I could say anything, Rachel appeared beside me. She had changed into jeans and a fitted t-shirt that somehow made her look even better than earlier. Walk me home, she said. I want to show you the space in my garage I am thinking about clearing for your workshop tools. The request sounded innocent, but anyone standing within earshot knew it carried more weight than that. Mark smirked, muttered a cheerful good luck, and disappeared into his house, leaving the two of us standing there in the warm evening light. You do not have to do this, I said as we started walking toward her place. Do what? She asked. Walk home. I mean, you live 2 houses down. She laughed. You know that is not what you meant. I sighed. The whole moving thing. The flirting. Making my wife uncomfortable. Rachel stopped walking and turned to look straight at me. Let me ask you something, she said. How long has she been talking about you like that? Like what? I asked, even though I already knew what she meant. The way she talked about you tonight, Rachel replied. Like you are some kind of burden she has to carry. Like you should feel lucky she even keeps you around. I thought about it, really thought about it. A few years, I guess, I said quietly. Maybe longer. And how does it make you feel when she does that? Like garbage, I admitted. Like I am not worth much of anything. Rachel nodded, as if she had expected that answer. Well, you are worth something. You are worth a lot, actually. And if she cannot see that, maybe someone else should. By then, we had reached her porch. She sat down on the steps and patted the spot beside her. I hesitated only a second before sitting down. I was not really joking about the movers, she said softly. I pushed things further than I had to in order to make a point, but the offer behind it, that was real. Rachel, just listen, she said. I have been divorced for 6 months. I spent 2 years in counseling trying to fix a marriage with a man who cheated on me over and over, then told me it was my fault because I was not exciting enough. Does any of that sound familiar? It did. Not the cheating, but the way she described being blamed. The constant criticisms. The feeling that nothing you do will ever be enough. When I finally left him, Rachel continued, I made myself a promise. I would never again settle for someone who did not value what I brought into a relationship. And even more important, I would never overlook a good man just because he was not flashy or dramatic. She leaned back against the porch railing, studying my face in the soft light spilling out from her front door. You are not boring, she said. You are steady. You are not lacking ambition. You are content. You are not low maintenance because you do not care. You are low maintenance because you are confident and solid. You do not need constant attention. My wife does not see it that way, I said quietly. Your wife is an idiot, Rachel said bluntly. And I think deep down, you already know that. I opened my mouth to answer, but my phone vibrated with a text message. It was from my wife. Where are you? Get home now. Rachel glanced at the screen. Demanding. Controlling. Not even a please or a thank you. She is upset, I said. She is embarrassed. There is a difference, Rachel replied. And instead of apologizing for humiliating you in front of the entire neighborhood, she is barking orders. I stood up, but Rachel caught my hand before I could take a step. Think about something tonight, she said. Think about how it felt when people were saying good things about you. When someone defended you instead of tearing you apart. When you were appreciated instead of tolerated. Her hand was warm, and she did not let go right away. The movers really will be here at 10 tomorrow morning, she added. I was not bluffing, but I want you to know something important. It is not about proving a point anymore. I honestly believe you deserve better than what you are getting at home. My phone buzzed again. Another text. I am serious. Come home right now. I have to go, I said quietly. I know, she said. Just remember what I said. You have choices. You are not stuck just because she expects you to be grateful for whatever scraps of respect she decides to hand out. I walked home in the darkness, replaying everything in my mind. For the first time in years, someone had looked at me and seen something worth admiring. Someone had stood up for me. Someone had flirted with me like I was a prize instead of a problem. The porch light was on at my house. Through the living room window, I could see my wife pacing with her phone at her ear, waving her free hand around angrily. Probably calling her sister or one of her friends to complain about how everybody had turned against her. I stood at the door for a moment with the key in my hand. According to Rachel, movers would be showing up at 10 the next morning. What had started as a joke had turned into a power move, and now it felt like a real decision I was going to have to make. Inside, as soon as I stepped through the doorway, my wife hung up her call. We need to talk, she said, and from her tone, it was clear this conversation was not going to be pleasant. She stood in the middle of the living room like she was gearing up for a fight. Her phone was face down on the table, but I could still see the recent call list glowing on the screen. 3 calls to her sister, 2 to her best friend from work, 1 to her mother. Full-scale damage control. Do you have any idea how humiliated I am right now? She demanded, before I had even shut the door. Actually, I do, I said, setting my keys down. It is the same way I have felt at every neighborhood get-together for the past 3 years. This is different, and you know it. How is it different? I asked. Because tonight you were the target instead of me. She crossed her arms tightly. I was making conversation. I was being social. And you just stood there and let that woman make a fool out of me. I stared at her for a few seconds. Let me get this straight, I said slowly. You stood in front of the entire neighborhood and announced that I am worthless as a husband. Somebody disagreed and actually showed interest in me. And somehow I am the one who embarrassed you? She was flirting with you, my wife snapped. Right in front of me. In front of everybody. And how do you think it feels? I asked. When you mock me in front of everyone. When you talk about me like I am some broken appliance you got stuck with. That is not what I was doing, she protested. That is exactly what you were doing. You stood there and asked the entire neighborhood who wanted to trade husbands because I am boring, low maintenance, and have no ambition. You said those words. All of them. She faltered, just for a moment, then tried to push through. I was joking. Everyone knew I was joking. No, I said firmly. Rachel did not think it was funny. Mark did not think it was funny. Kelly and Megan did not think it was funny. As far as I can tell, the only person who thought it was hilarious was you. My wife started pacing again, her heels tapping sharply across the hardwood floor. Rachel is a desperate divorced woman trying to steal someone else's husband, she snapped. She has been eyeing you ever since she moved in. Has she? I asked. Or have you just stopped noticing that other people might see something valuable in me? Something you have stopped appreciating? I appreciate you. When? I asked. When was the last time you told me you were proud of something I did? When was the last time you defended me instead of tearing me down? When was the last time you treated me like someone you actually wanted to be married to? She had no answer. She knew it, and so did I. Instead, she switched tactics. I talked to my sister, she said. She told me I should call Rachel and tell her to back off. Woman to woman. Do not do that, I said sharply. She froze. I had not spoken to her in that tone in a very long time. Excuse me. Do not call her, I said. You created this situation. You opened the door when you decided to humiliate me in public. You do not get to control how people respond to what you did. She is trying to break up our marriage. Our marriage was already broken, I said. She just pointed it out loud enough for everyone to notice. My wife's cheeks turned bright red. How can you say that? We have been married 8 years. 8 years of what? I asked. 8 years of you acting like I should be grateful you settled for me. 8 years of you rolling your eyes when I talk about my job. 8 years of you cracking jokes at my expense every time we are around other people. I do not do that, she said weakly. Tonight alone, I reminded her. You told an entire backyard full of people that I have no ambition, that I am completely boring, and that you would trade me to anyone willing to take me. And when someone finally challenged you on it, you got mad at me for not defending your right to insult me. She sank down onto the couch, realizing this conversation was slipping out of her control. What do you want me to do, Greg? She asked. Apologize to the entire neighborhood? I want you to think about why Rachel's offer bothered you so much, I said. Is it because you love me? Or is it because you do not want to lose the convenience of having me around while treating me like I do not matter? That is not fair. Neither were the last 8 years, I said. My phone buzzed. We both glanced at it. It was from Rachel. Movers confirmed for 10 a.m. Sleep well. My wife's eyes went wide. She is actually serious about this. Looks like it, I said. You are not actually considering it, are you? I stared at Rachel's message for a long moment. You know what really hit me tonight? I said finally. It was not that she flirted with me. It was that when people talked about the good things I do, she listened. She paid attention. She appreciated it. I listened to you, my wife said. Do you? I asked. Because tonight, when Mark mentioned the traffic project I have been working on for months, you looked bored. When Kelly talked about how I helped Owen's kid with his homework, you checked your phone. When Camila mentioned that I fixed her garbage disposal, you walked away and started talking to someone else. She did not argue, because she could not. But Rachel, I continued. She listened to every word. She asked questions. She acted like these were things to be proud of, not things she had to tolerate. So what? My wife shot back. You are just going to leave me for a woman you barely know? I'm going to think about whether I want to stay married to someone who thinks so little of me that she advertises my flaws for entertainment. Her phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID and hit decline. That was my mother, she said. I told her what happened, and she wants to talk to you. What exactly did you tell her? I asked. The truth, she said. That Rachel Armstrong is trying to steal my husband, and you are not doing anything to stop it. Is that really the truth? I asked. Or is the truth that you finally pushed me too far, and now you are dealing with what comes after that? She looked at me as if she was seeing me clearly for the first time in years. Maybe she was. The movers will be here at 10 tomorrow morning, I said quietly. I think you should spend tonight deciding whether you want to give me a reason to tell them they made the trip for nothing. I turned and headed upstairs, leaving her sitting alone with her phone and her panicked calls. For the first time in our entire marriage, I was the one walking away from the argument, and I cannot even describe how good that felt. I woke up around 9:30 to the sound of my wife arguing on the phone downstairs. Her voice was sharp, tight, and defensive. When I looked out the bedroom window, I saw a white moving truck making the turn onto our street. Fisher Moving Company. Right on time. I got dressed slowly, listening to bits of her conversation drift up from the kitchen. She was talking to someone, maybe her sister, ranting about that manipulative woman, complaining about marriage counseling, insisting she could fix things. The desperation in her voice was something I had never heard from her before. At exactly 10 o'clock, there was a knock at the front door. I walked downstairs. My wife stood frozen in the hallway, still clutching her phone. Through the glass beside the door, we could both see two men in matching gray uniforms standing on our porch. You do not have to answer it, she whispered. But my hand was already reaching for the handle. Morning, said the older man with a friendly nod. I am Henry Sanderson with Fisher Moving Company. We are here for the Armstrong relocation. Behind him, I spotted Rachel walking across her front yard toward us. She was wearing a light sundress that fit her perfectly, and she carried herself with the same calm confidence that had caught everyone's attention the night before. My wife stepped forward, panicking. There has been a mistake. Nobody is moving anywhere. Henry checked his clipboard. Ma'am, we have a confirmed job for 10 o'clock this morning. Loading belongings for delivery to 214 Oak Ridge Drive. He pointed toward Rachel's house. That is correct, Rachel said as she reached the porch. She looked right at me. Are you ready? The question hung between us like a held breath. My wife grabbed my arm. Please do not do this, she begged. We can work it out. We can go to counseling. I will change. Will you? I asked quietly. Or will you just try to hide it better? I made a mistake, she insisted. One mistake. It was not one mistake, I said. It was 8 years of them. Last night was just the first time anyone finally said something about it. Rachel stepped closer. My offer is exactly what I said it was. You will be valued. You will be appreciated. You will be wanted. No conditions. No promises to do better. No pretending. I looked at my wife. Even now, even with everything on the line, she still could not bring herself to say the real problem out loud. She talked about counseling and working things out and trying again, but she never once acknowledged the way she had treated me. I am sorry, I said to her softly, but I am not going to spend another 8 years trying to convince you I deserve basic respect. I turned to Henry. Give me 10 minutes to pack a bag. Everything else can be moved later. My wife's face went pale. You are serious? You are actually leaving me for her? I am not leaving you for her, I said. I am leaving you for me. Rachel just reminded me that I deserve better than what I was getting. I headed upstairs. Behind me, I heard my wife start to cry, but I knew the difference. It was not the kind of crying you hear when someone loses the person they love. It was the kind of crying that happens when you finally realize you took something for granted until it walks out the door. 15 minutes later, I walked across the street with a suitcase in one hand and Rachel's hand in the other. The moving truck waited in my driveway, a quiet promise kept. Neighbors watched from windows and porches. Mark gave me a thumbs up from his yard. Kelly waved from her kitchen window. Owen's teenage son actually clapped. My wife stood in our doorway, still holding her phone as she watched me walk away from 8 years with someone who never understood what she had. 3 months later, the house went up for sale. My ex-wife moved back in with her mother until she sorted things out. The neighborhood gossip chain kept me updated on her attempts to rewrite the story, claiming I had a midlife crisis, claiming Rachel had lured me away, claiming that men just cannot handle strong women. But the neighborhood had been there. They had heard every word she said. They had seen how she treated me. No revision could erase what everyone had witnessed. Rachel and I moved into a bigger place 2 neighborhoods over. She kept her promise. Every day, she treated me like a man worth having, not a chore she was stuck with. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, my ex-wife approached us at a restaurant. She walked up to our table with a speech already loaded. "I just want you to know I have changed," she said. "I have been in therapy. I understand what went wrong." "I am glad you are working on yourself," I said calmly. "But understanding what went wrong does not undo 8 years of damage." "So that is it," she snapped. "You are not even willing to try?" "I tried for 8 years," I said. "You had 8 years to treat me with respect. I am not giving you year 9. She looked at Rachel with thinly disguised resentment. "I hope you are happy." "I am," Rachel said simply. "Every single day." After she walked away, Rachel reached across the table and took my hand. "Any regrets?" she asked softly. I thought about that night at the barbecue. The moment my life bent in a new direction. The moment someone finally stood up for me, valued me, defended me. "Just one," I said. "What is that?" "I wish I had found the courage to leave sooner." She smiled, squeezed my hand gently, and said, "Well, you are here now. That is what matters." And she was right. I was exactly where I belonged, with someone who saw my worth instead of my shortcomings. Someone who would never stand in front of a crowd and ask who wanted to trade me. Because in the end, the best trade I ever made was walking away from a woman who did not appreciate me and choosing a life with someone who did.